Look at these floorboards. I've literally risen up. Look at that. I've got to leave this humidifier running now for a couple of weeks to reduce all the moisture, but the big issue we've got is what's going on below. If this was engineered out, we wouldn't have the problem because the ply underneath the oak is more stable, so it would have stopped the oak rising up. Because this is a solid oak floor, we've got this major issue. Since my father died before Christmas, everything seems to have been going wrong at Mum's house. This was done by supposed pros. Makes me really angry seeing this. And with all the torrential rain we've had, this has happened. Oh my God. What? The concrete slab under Mum's floor is absolutely sopping, and unable to withstand the increase in moisture levels, the solid oak floor has bowed beyond belief. I'm an hour into the journey. I've got 1 hour to go. I've got to say, this is the last thing I want to be doing this evening. I've been at the house for 3 days with the heat pump install, and I was installing the path for the heat pump install in the rain last week. But I've had to drop everything today to come up and sort this floor out. The deadline is Mum's got friends coming on Saturday and she wants this floor sorted out. And I'm angry to start with because I said to both my parents 10 years ago, when they were a lot younger and had an opportunity to move out of their house into somewhere a bit smaller and a bit more suitable, but they didn't want to listen to me. So we're now in a situation where my mum is really lonely and suddenly everything's going wrong. But there's another reason I need to fix this. When her shed roof failed, she ignored my advice and got a load of cowboys in. They literally just shoved a load of roofing felt on top of the existing, didn't even seal the edges or sort out the guttering. And of course, a few months later in the next storm, the whole lot tore off, and I had to go out there with my brother-in-law to weigh it down with bricks, as you can see here. And you know how much they charged her to do this job? £4,500. You know, obviously in my supporting role as a son, and luckily because I've got a few skills, because I've done this sort of thing before as a DIYer. But also the three of us are terrified that if we don't go and help her, she's just going to get another unscrupulous tradesman or cowboy in to try and fix the problem and charge her an absolute fortune. Hello Mum, say hello to everyone.
Hi everybody.
This wall where the damage is worse is actually not too bad, in the sense that the outdoor sort of surface level is quite similar to the floor level inside. Where the problem is coming is on this side of the cottage, from the floor to the bottom of the sill of 810 millimeters. 810 to the bottom of the sill, that's 600. So you've got 200 mil at least of wall of internal ground level that's below the outside layer level. So we're going to have to do some serious work here. Mum has tried to dig a little channel, bless her, which has done absolutely nothing. I keep telling my mother not to do things like that, and she's stubborn. She's gone and dug that channel.
I thought it might divert it.
Well, no, you're going to hurt yourself or do something worse. So please don't do that again. I was keen to peel up some of that oak flooring, partly because I had to understand more about the floor substructure and where the water might be coming from, but also because by opening up the floor, I could get the dehumidifier to work, drying it out. Oh my God.
What?
This is why your floor has sopping.
Is it?
Ideally you'd rip the whole floor up in this situation and redo it properly, but I didn't have that luxury. This was only ever going to be a patch job, so I had to remove the damaged boards with as much precision as possible so as not to damage the rest. I'm going to have to replace that one, those two there, and then of course all of these here. Why does this never cease to surprise me? They've literally laid the oak, and it is solid oak, which is why it's moved like a crazy, on top of completely non-tannalised 2x1 with no membrane, nothing. I think this was the original garage, and so the paving slabs, the garage slabs have come up and they've just plonked this down on top. Get a pro in. Somebody was told on our Discord forum this week when they were talking about what to do about some tiling job. This was done by supposed pros. much better doing it yourself, to be honest with you. Makes me really angry seeing this. I don't know what tools I need, but in the soft furnishings industry, the one tool you left behind was the one tool you needed. So I'm just going to kitchen sink it. As you'll see, there were some tools I just couldn't manage without and couldn't leave behind. Full details of all tools will be in the description below the video. Okay. There is an overriding smell of damp. Mould, actually. Dehumidifier has been running 24/7 for about 2 weeks since I was last here when I ripped up all this flooring. Right, well, it's a lot drier than it was. Remember, this was literally wet to the touch, but it's still very damp. And the smell of mould is coming from under here. Yeah. The dehumidifier has been running 24/7 for a few weeks now, but without knowing where the water is getting in, even this feels like a really bad sticking plaster. Absolutely hate doing bodges like this, but she wants this floor repaired. It's not practical. Basically, the whole downstairs needs ripping out and the damp investigated. With a new damp-proof membrane, or possibly even an epoxy liquid membrane like this. You know, that's not practical at the moment. So I'm just going to have to crack on. And a company I've been using for years stepped in with the perfect replacement flooring. My workbench is going to be trashed at the end of today. Just check this out there. This isn't even in their premium line stuff, and I love it. Love it, love it. UV lacquered. I normally stain my wood myself, but also this is tongue grooved all the way around, and I've had people in comments before saying, why haven't you put noggins in between each piece of floorboard? Well, you don't need to with this stuff because it's, what is it, 19mm thick, 20mm thick, whatever, and it's got T&G all the way around. Not that we'll be using that today. I've been exploring the best way to cut off these glued in tongues, and I think the best option I've got is a good old-fashioned chisel. It's not ideal because my chisels aren't particularly sharp, and at least you can go at it reasonably slowly, and you know you're not compromising the surface, because the surface is what we need to preserve. And today's star tool, my mini circular saw. Precision removal of the damaged pieces with perfect 90-degree cuts. But there was more cutting to do. One of the reasons I didn't cut these before leaving is that I couldn't guarantee that the floorboards hadn't moved substantially. This is looking at about 17.9. If I cut that at 178, it would have been a bit narrow, I think. I'm kicking myself. I forgot to bring my tent when I was packing everything up. I told you I always forget something. Trades out there. If you're ever thinking of buying a van and you're thinking, do I buy one with doors that open or one big door like this? Best advice I ever got from Mercedes was get one of these, because when it's raining you can work underneath it, which is exactly what I'm going to be doing today. Right, I'm going to be using my cheap Urbauer track saw today. And a lot of people say to me, can you use it with other tracks compatible? Because fortunately the two tracks it comes with aren't very long. The answer to that is yes, I'm using Evolution. Check out their new system. It has even easier joiners than these, which is the original one. And what I'm going to do is I'm combining a 1.4 and what is this, 60 centimetre, because that'll be the length of the maximum length of my floorboards. Release, slide the joiners in and tighten them up. You get the idea. I haven't got a straight edge to calibrate this with, so I'm going to have to do it by eye. This is the problem joining tracks. If you've got the storage space, I'd always recommend having at least one full-length track like this. So you see how bowed these floorboards are, but the plan is to slowly move across the room, replacing what we've got with my new floorboards. Massive problem with solid oak. Don't use solid oak if you're thinking about it, because it warps like this has. Instead, choose from a range of engineered oaks. Why? Because they've got a solid ply base with, in this case, 3mm I think, or 4mm oak on top. Whether it's 4mm or 6mm, I've used 6mm at home. It doesn't need to be 6mm, because unless you start sanding the hell out of this stuff, and why would you, because it's brand new, you're never going to know how thick the oak is. This stuff is wonderful, and in the 10-12 years I've got this at home, it hasn't moved 1mm. The slight problem though is Mum's floorboards are a little bit narrower, so I'm going to have to cut off the tongue and groove from the sides of my new one using a combination of my hot melt glue gun And these amazing screws. I used to use Loctite screws from Typefix, but it's so hard to get them anywhere. So these are Timco, very similar thing. And the point about these is you put them in through the tongue so you won't even see them. There will be a few floorboards where I have to go in through the top, but because their heads are so tiny, you literally won't see what I've done. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. I've trimmed this off a little bit to bring it in because obviously I didn't cut it completely at 90 degrees. We do have a little bit of a gap there, but there's nothing I can do about that because it's flush there and flush there. If I scribe it in that corner, it'll pull the whole floorboard out a little bit. I might just do a tiny bit just to see if I can pull that in a touch, but I'll be a bit careful. But luckily I'd bought my random orbit sander. Trend 60 grit sanding disc, really abrasive that. And I'm just trimming with a chisel. Now, that has let that corner in beautifully and closed up that gap quite a lot. Right, we're getting too wet out there, so I've managed to find space here. Let me just show you my setup. I've got my bar there with a very sophisticated extraction system. Do you know what, pneumatic, if you really want to disrupt the building industry, make a Henry with a pass-through switch. That would be genius. Got my clamps, those go onto the track. I've got my sacrificial piece of wood, sacrificial because that slips underneath there to stop me cutting the worktop up. And a good way to see whether your track is straight or not is to line it up against all the pencil marks for where you want to cut and just see roughly whether they all mark up. Do you know what? I'm going to buy myself a 3-meter Makita track because I've had enough with joining tracks together. And actually this one is looking pretty good. So one board down and my plan was working, but there was still a lot of boards to trim and tear up. Almost just only the bevel on that edge, tiny slither. By now I had the board cutting down to a fine art, but how many times have you ever had to use a track saw working around a wood beam like this? None of this was ideal. However, slowly but surely the job of cutting out the warped floorboards and tidying up the torn tongue and groove edges was complete. I've had lots of things that have slowed me down today, and the main one is this. You put 2 bits of board in, slot them into position, and you find that there's a gap at one end and there isn't at the other, so you've got to then take it back to your mitre saw, take a little bit off. And this is a fiddly bit because my mitre saw isn't the easiest to adjust, I would say. I've got tongue and groove there. Remember, this does not need to be supported. Some of the joints will, but this one doesn't. And then at this end, just needs straightening off in the middle, but that is going to be bang on. And a little bit of easy fill went into the hole that I made when I prized off the skirting board. Compromise is I'm going to have the odd screw, but literally when you see how small this is, you'll realise that really isn't a problem. But there are other situations where, because they're so small, you can hide them. Like that. The floorboards are now roughly in position, and I'm speaking to my sister, have come up with a bit of a game plan. Rather than gluing them down in any shape or form, I'm going to literally mechanically fix them with these screws. That way it's not such a botch because we can take the floor up to monitor the damp when we come back in the spring to dig a French drain around the outside and do stuff like that. So that's what I'm going to do now. Bit of music, bit of time lapse, so let's get cracking on. So with each floorboard numbered, I could move them out of the way and slowly work across the floor, screwing each board in position. Mid-sections were screwed down through the tongue, but the ends of each board were screwed down from above. I could probably have hidden the screws by angling them in between each board, but as I said, I want to be able to remove them in the future if necessary. And there we have it. The job was finally done in the nick of time. First few days this week installing a heat pump, last week getting ready for it. I'm absolutely knackered. Should have done a bit of a piece to camera before I left, but I just want to get home. It's going to be late when I get back as it is. Really, hands hurt, head hurts, but look, we got the job done. It's a tricky one that though, isn't it? I get this coming up on my members forum on Discord so often, people saying, got this problem, inherited it when I bought the house, what do you think I should do? Quite often there isn't a perfect solution like today, because really in today's situation what we should be doing is ripping up the entire floor, installing a damp proof membrane and starting again. But you know, even that's difficult, totally impractical, ripping up the whole of the ground floor. And normally you'd put a damp proof membrane underneath a sort of concrete slab. What I am going to do in the spring is come back with a digger and dig a big channel around the side of the house, because at least then we'll be able to get to the bottom of whether the damp's been penetrating in through the walls because the ground is too high outside. Personally, I think it's rising damp coming from underneath the slab, but we will see. The other damp you have to think about this time of year is damp from lifestyle, you know, washing, heating, cooking, showering, bathing. But I don't think we've got that problem in this situation, particularly given it's underneath the floor, whereas those situations normally manifest themselves in the walls and ceiling. But until then, let's hope it doesn't come back. At least engineered oak is not going to bow like that solid oak did. So I hope you found today's video useful. If you have, it'd be great if you give it a thumbs up below. And if you're new to my channel, I'd love to have you subscribe. You can do that by clicking on the link here. Don't forget to click the bell notification icon to get notified of all my future uploads. Hopefully see you soon.